So and I want to kind of skin back the onion a little bit on what you said. I mean, obviously you brought up something, and I think it was an article on your website about like the importance of having protein, right, for the brain, and the building blocks of protein is amino acids, which is
Amino
one of the
acids, yeah.
ingredients that you were talking about. So I want you to kind of talk about this in the sense of, okay, like what you're describing, somebody that is into keto or in ketosis, they may say that they may get what you're describing. So what's the differences between, like, obviously caffeine gets you the dopamines, right? Ketosis, I'm not sure what that does, but I know that it helps you to focus. And then
Yeah.
what you're talking about. So what's the differences between the three, and what's the cause and effects and the benefits?
Well, again, the bad diets, the bad drinks,
Mm.
the sugar, the energy drinks, the coffee. Many times we call energy drinks and coffee stimulants, and that's a total misnomer because they're depressants, right? When we take something like that, initially we get an energy jolt, but where does the energy come from? We're borrowing it from our body, right? So we need to pay for that later, and that's when we can get into these depressive states, right? Depressive state, and the only solution we have is drink more energy drinks or drink more coffee. Otherwise we get a withdrawal headache and all that kind of stuff. So we got to really look at those things like we're borrowing from the body, and in the long term they're all depressants. They're certainly not stimulants. They're quite the opposite. Okay, so obviously if we can get away from the empty calorie foods and drinks and caffeine and energy drinks and sugar in our diet, and we balance our diet, then obviously we have a very smart solution to all those effects, because it's not just the depression, but it's also, if the body doesn't get what it needs, you can't perform, right? You can't focus. And so when you say, if we can get into a good balanced diet, or even when we're in keto and we're burning those fats versus those sugars, and rely more on lean proteins, yes, it's going to help us getting more into the zone, or better focus, just because we upgraded our diet, right? And so anytime we can upgrade our diet or our nutrition, it's going to affect every single cell in the body, right? So that's it. Now, if we want to get dopamine, right? Let's say you're not on social media and you don't do those drinks, but you want to get into the zone, because dopamine is important to get into the zone. There's obviously, we need to upgrade that diet. But at the same time, there's certain supplements or certain nutrients, I would say, that would help get you there, right? Iron is important, niacin is important, folate is important, vitamin B6 is important. So we got to make sure we have ample of those, because they are basically precursors to dopamine. Certain supplements or nutrients that help us with dopamine production would be magnesium, curcumin, what else? Oregano extract, green tea extract, and vitamin D. So those are the top of my head, some very essential nutrients for dopamine. But I'm cautious here, because most of us are in the dopamine overload. So we need to first manage the overload, right? So yes, I mean, again, the supplement will balance that and modulate those 5 hormones. But in the long term, we want to make sure we upgrade our diet. We got to make sure we have the essential nutrients in our body. And then we still could obviously take the supplement to really get into the zone. I mean, a lot of athletes are on it now, not just athletes, CEOs, Silicon Valley CEOs, business people, people that need to, do a presentation in front of, 500 or 1,000 people. If they take it 30 minutes before, they're less distracted, and they're more focused, and they usually deliver much better. But in sports, it's, I had a talk with somebody a few days ago, and it was just about sports. And it's pretty amazing, because if we think about sports, many times, interviewers ask coaches, how much of the game is mental? And often the coach says, answers anywhere between 50 and 90%. Although reality is really 90 to 100%. Because if we look at top sports, right, all those top athletes, NFL, boxing, whatever you want to talk about, or the NBA, they all got amazing physical, capacities, and they got all skills, and they all have talent, or they wouldn't be there. So what makes the difference in winning? It's right up here, right? Again, I mentioned Michael Jordan. He was always in the zone. But what does that mean? Because most people have been in the zone before, but that was kind of by accident, and they don't know how to reproduce that. So people like me, or top people that know how to get in the zone know exactly how to prepare themselves to be in that zone on demand and bring your A game each and every time, whether that's sports, whether that's a presentation, whether that's crushing your sales goals or whatever it is that you do, right? And so in sports, it always makes the difference between winning and losing, because I mean, I even was watching with my stepdad some football, and they're from Belgium, so I'm explaining some of the rules, of the game, because it's more interesting if you know what's happening, right? So anyways, they were saying like this one player had such a good game last game, which is 2 days ago, and today he can't do anything. What's the difference? Obviously, his physical capabilities are still the same. He's still in shape. His skills are the same. He's distracted, right? He's not in the zone. Something happened at home. Something happened with his wife, with his kids. Who knows what happened, but he's not there. So he's always just a fraction of a second late, misses the ball, things like that. So one day they have a good day, the next day they have a bad day. But the difference is here, and that's the difference between losing and winning. So if you're on the Focus Plus, you're in the zone. And so what are the benefits? Number one, you anticipate just a little bit faster than your competition because you're not distracted by anything. If you miss the putt in golfing, usually that miss carries over a few more holes. If a wide receiver misses that ball or tumbles, it usually carries over a few plays. But when you're in the zone, it does not carry over to the next play because you only have the end in mind. You only are about the win at the end. And so that's being in the zone, anticipating faster, focusing better, and winning, and not kind of being upset about the little miss during one play, because it doesn't matter. It's just moving forward to that win. And it's the same in business, same in sports. So the mental aspect in performance becomes more and more important. And I think today, being in the zone is a skill or a strategy that we can have, and that we can, put on demand. We can actually get in the zone on demand and bring your A game when you want to.